So you may have thought the title of this video was complete clickbait, but honestly, this is a pedal, in my opinion, all bass players that use effects need to have on their board. This pedal has been such a game changer for my rig, I'm honestly surprised I don't see it on more people's pedal boards. And this is the Electro Harmonix Tri-Parallel Mixer. This pedal allows you to have 3 separate effects chains in parallel, so not running into each other, but running alongside each other. So 3 different effects chains. And on each effects chain, you have a send level and a return level to really dial in the levels from each chain and each effect. You also have an EQ for that chain, so treble on one side, bass on the other. And you also have a phase switch, so no out of phase pedals. Everything can be dialed in to work perfectly in your rig. You also actually have a dry control as well. So technically you've got 4 chains because you can keep your dry signal in parallel as well. And then you've got a master volume on the output to control how it hits the rest of your rig. This pedal has been a massive game changer for me. This has allowed me to run effects pedals in parallel in my rig, getting Biamped rigs, cool synth bass effects, all these different options just because this is at the heart of my pedal board. At the start of this video, you heard a multi-voice sound. So that's the octave pedal on loop 1. So that's my Gojira FX Octave generator, giving you the sub in that sound without any of the clean. We do have some of the clean blended in on that dry knob. Effects chain number 2 has my Kalavera effects Fuzz running into an octave up from Gojira FX for that Octavia splatty kind of thing, then into a Vox Wah, and then the master output of the Electro Harmonix hits my NUX chorus and NUX Melvin Lee Davis preamp, all that recorded direct into Ableton. And for all the clips today, I'm using my trusty Cort BL4 fretless bass because it's my favourite bass. So that was the clip you heard at the start of this video, and that's a real representation of how I've been using this live. So I've had effect sounds which are more like my lead sound on one chain, my clean blended in, and then when I need to add some weight to it, a bit of power, I add that octave pedal in on a separate chain. Everything stays independent, they just get mixed together before my preamp stage. The next clip though is going to be more of a traditional use case, and that is to simulate a Biamped rig. So Biamped rigs, if you don't know, are where you run a guitar amp distorted for all that trebly top end and some of the kind of growly, beefy mids, and then you run a bass amp clean with lots of bottom end, so you maintain all the bottom end from the bass amp, but get the distortion from the guitar amp and all that top end and high mids. And this negates the common issue with effects pedals, particularly drives designed for guitar. They don't have the bottom end response for bass. So we're simulating that here. We're using the Scran, which is actually a really cool pedal for bass. I am going to be doing a video on that soon as well. Been promising that one for a while. But that's a really cool overdrive pedal, kind of set up semi into fuzz territory here. It's really versatile. So I'm using that on the effect chain into that octave up again. And then I'm actually using the dry knob to blend in my clean alongside that. So this is not going to be a weak sound. This is a pretty full-on, thick bass tone, but with all that character and drive of the guitar drive pedal in parallel with it. And that to me is the primary reason all bass players need this. If you use overdrive, fuzz or distortion sounds, put them in parallel with your clean using a pedal like this and it's going to sound huge. So let's hear that clip now. Now the next one's going to be a bit different because I'm actually not going to use any effects. What I'm actually going to do is use effects loop number 2 with no effects in it, just a patch cable patching it together so the send is being put into the return. And what I'm doing is using that EQ knob to give me a treble boost. And what we're going to do is use a slap sound here. So this is effectively giving me a different EQ setting for playing slap. So we'll start the clip with my normal, quite flat, quite neutral bass sound, which is really set up here for the effects. I want the effects to stack in and get the character of the pedals. So the clean sound's quite neutral. But this gives me a really characterful, quite exciting sounding clean sound that I can add on top of that whenever I need it. So that dry is still there. I still have that dry knob blended where I had it on all the other settings, but I'm adding this EQ on top and a little bit of a signal boost to give me that clarity when I want to have a clean sound as opposed to my affected sounds. So you should hear a pretty big difference between these two sounds. And like we have done on all these clips so far, the chorus is on the new X chorus, on actually the same settings as the first two, and it's running into the Melvin Lee Davis preamp. So let's check that out now. And the last clip we're going to do today is a synth bass setting. And this is done with that Gojira octave sound we talked about on the first clip. Same settings in loop number 1, just to give that weight. And we're going to use loop number 3 again, but this time with the 1991 overdrive. Again, one that rolls off a lot of bottom end, but it's going to sound great in the setup because it's going to have its own clarity. And that again is running into that octave up and through the wah. And then the master from the Electro Harmonix is going to go into, again, that chorus and the preamp, but I'm using a much more over-the-top chorus sound now to really give that synthy vibe. This time, though, I'm not using any of the clean, so I've dialed the dry sound completely out, and it's just those two effects loops, really allowing it to get more synthy than normal. So that'll be the last clip we'll play today. Before we get into that though, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, let me know in the comments. If you've got any ideas of how you could, or maybe you do use this pedal, please leave them below because I'm always open to trying new things and I'm always looking for the next thing to try out. I must clarify as well, this is not a sponsored video. I've not been paid by Electro Harmonix to say any of this. They don't know I'm making this video. I bought this with my own money. There are other pedals on the market that can do this kind of thing, but I think this is probably the most feature-rich version of it you can get. For the money as well, it is real bang for the buck. So I highly recommend checking this out. Let me know what you think about it. Let me know what you thought of the clips as well. And thank you again so much for watching. And if you did enjoy this and you want to support what I'm doing, please hit like and subscribe and all that usual stuff people ask for. I do have my music on here and on Bandcamp under Gavin Forbes Music. Also on streaming as well under the same name. And if you want to see any updates about my new music or gigs and things of that nature, Instagram, Gavin Forbes Music, all those notifications go up there. So thank you again for watching. I do really appreciate it. And until next time, keep working on those bass faces.